about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So every now and then in the news, we hear of somebody just having a meltdown where they just either, I guess there was one case where there was some promotion at a drive-thru and the promotion had ended. So now they're like, oh, come on. Or you see road rage or... or some people, they just kind of have we used to call it a BF, right? A bitch fit, but we don't call that anymore. That's kind of 20 teens-ish. And, I look and I see what's happening to people. And we discuss whether, is it that, we have so many individuals with mental health issues? Is it normal to just kind of have a breakdown? Do you need a release? Well, it's interesting because... back in my dating days, right? I had a lot of guy friends. And they would tell me that before they went on a date, right? So they wouldn't be overly amorous, okay? They would temper that by doing a self-session at home. Kind of that was actually highlighted in something about Mary, where they would get their business done earlier so that they already had a release, and then they were less likely to be, shall we say, to make a dumb move on a date. And does that work? Does that work where if you do, feel like, well, I need to have a cry now, because if I don't have a cry, the cry is going to come later. Or I have to, have sex now, or if not, I'm going to want it later. Does the human body need these releases? I think they do. I remember when my father died, I didn't cry that day. I didn't have time to cry. I had to figure out how to ship his body back to Las Vegas, deal with how do I, help support my mom and brother? How do I tell the family? I had to go to work that day, had a full, day of patience. And not to mention, I had to take on the cost of now something that I really couldn't afford, but I had to take on the cost of the funeral and all that, organize all that. And I guess I was so busy that I didn't cry. And I didn't even really, I don't think, cry during the funeral. And it wasn't until 6 months later that all of a sudden somebody said something about my dad, and then the tears came. And I remember telling myself I should have cried before so that it wouldn't have, but it's not that it built up. It's just I needed that time. And, I cried. I'm not a big crier. I cried for about 5 minutes. I still think about my dad and I feel sad. But I noticed for me, if I don't necessarily address something early on, it might not necessarily build like a pressure cooker, but I have to address it. It's like in this compartment that I have to address. If there's an issue I need to talk to with Corey about, I can't just sweep it under the rug or suppress it. If it doesn't come out today, it's going to come out a couple days from now. So let's bring it out today so it's more controlled. So then let's look at these issues where people just decide to scream and yell at a fast food worker or at a coworker. Do we need to have releases? Now, I spoke about this years ago where it wouldn't hurt for a lot of us to be always at a gym or working out or maybe doing Taekwondo or Krav Maga. Have an outlet where you can actually, focus a lot of that energy. And maybe we all do need to, punch something sometimes. Maybe we do need to have yell and scream moments. I don't know. I rarely get mad about things, and maybe it's because I'm always talking about it. And maybe it's because my radio show is my release, because I always get to talk about stuff. Anytime something upsets me, I just boom. I could just eructate it all, on air. And you all have to listen to it, but I feel better. I'm a happy girl. But people need their releases, whether it's talking to their friends, whether it's going to a counselor. Maybe you need a yell room where if you need to yell or scream or punch something, You do that. You got a safe place to do that where nobody else is going to get hurt. And then you could go about your day. Yeah. And what was that Michael Douglas movie where he just couldn't take it anymore? And so he just starts to lose it. I really believe that we have individuals out there that may be suppressing and suppressing and suppressing, and then they just take it out on innocent bystanders, whether it's their kids, their pets. And what if we do need to embrace the art of the release, where you have scheduled releases, per se, or you make sure, in addition to your nutrition, in addition to your working out, in addition to your sleep, you have your, I'm going to do my release. Like, what was it? Cutting down a cherry tree? Did George Washington do that every time he was mad and get mad and chop down a cherry tree, or I don't know, whatever. I'm not saying chop down trees. I love the trees. But, there's ways that we could maybe deal with our anger and our frustration, and maybe we need to have those releases. Now, for a lot of people, that's not satisfying enough. They want to yell at somebody. They want to make somebody cry. They want to make somebody tremble. Well, those people have mental illnesses. But if you're like, I get frustrated and then something else frustrates me, and then all the frustration comes to a head, well, then why don't you find ways to release that frustration before? Also, address why you're frustrated. Is it because there's something going on at work that you can't address? Something going on in your relationship? Is it that you're unhappy about something? That's what counselors are amazing at, especially your cognitive therapists, and your psychoanalyst. What is it that is frustrating you that you aren't realizing? And you're like, well, wait a second. Looks like I am unhappy about this, or I do think they're cheating, or So, I'm really tired of hearing people have their BFs or their meltdowns, and it gets caught on camera. It can ruin their lives. It could, and maybe we need to start looking at and embracing the art of the release. Find ways where you have that release that is safe, it's private, and it hopefully takes off some of that steam. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hotshot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Now, don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
all for tuning in. 1-877 Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. Our amazing producer and also creative content creator who is, you could see by the amazing bumpers and music we got. Big kudos to Daniel. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to all of you for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So many people look back at the election between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and they look at reasons why the Democrats lost to Trump. And I commend that. I think, you always need to, reevaluate. You want to reevaluate the science. It's always evolving. Reevaluate the politics. Take, the temperature of the room. Read the audience. And while many people think Trump won because of the issues, the border was huge, the economy, the attitudes towards people and getting canceled and et cetera. Some people think that it wasn't the Democrats' platform and campaigning, it was their candidate. And former President Biden was on The View, and he thinks it was because of sexism and racism. So co-host Sarah Haynes asked the president, this is being reported by Fox News, as to if he was surprised that Harris lost. He said, I wasn't surprised. He said, not because I didn't think the vice president was the most qualified person to be president. He said, she is. He said, she's qualified to be president of the United States of America. He said, I was surprised, repeats, I was surprised because they went the route of the sexist route, the whole route. I mean, he said, this is a woman. She's this, she's that, he said. I mean, it really. I've never seen quite as successful and a consistent campaign undercutting the notion that a woman couldn't lead the country and a woman of mixed race. He said, anyway, making a long story short, all kidding aside, think about it. Liberal democracies lost last time out all across America. I think we underestimate the phenomenal negative impact that COVID had, that the pandemic had on people, on attitudes, on optimism, on a whole range of things. So I was very disappointed, but I wasn't surprised. The only thing that surprised me was the excess to which they've gone in some of the attacks they've made. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm a woman. Right? So trust me, my ovaries or my estrogen or something, my spidey sense would tingle if I was listening to anything that was anti-Semitic, racist, misogynist, homophobic. That would definitely, it would pique my radar. Show me examples where during the campaign they were anti-woman, especially when there were women on the campaign trail. And if there was, I'd like to know about it. But I didn't see an anti-woman or a racist campaign. Now, I did hear Obama talk to people saying, come on, I know you're not, comfortable with a woman running, but you got to get over that. Where were they picking this up? There's a lot of popular women. If Oprah ran, should win. If Michelle Obama ran, maybe not against Trump after a Biden presidency, but you have some extremely popular women that I could soar, to the presidential role. I just think Kamala Harris was not likable. Now, people are bringing up, but women didn't vote for Kamala. A lot of women did not like Kamala. I can't speak to them. Some theories behind that is maybe they didn't think that Kamala Harris was going to be the best representation of women. The word salads, the difficulty, answering a question. And I gave Kamala Harris a pass. If you remember early on, I gave her a pass because most presidents, if they give their vice president a task, you as vice president have to be behind the heels. You have to bow to the president. You can't outshine the president. So somebody like me would have never been vice president, because if you told me, all right, Daliah, you're border czar. Oh, I would be on a plane that hour. I would be going down there. I would be like, all right, guys, here's my list. Tell me everything you need. And I'm going to get it the flip done. You need this, you need this, you need a wall, and then I would have brought that back and said, guys, this is what we're doing. So in Kamala Harris's defense, let's say she wanted to do that. Now, people said she never did want to do that, but let's say she did want to go, hey, guys, this is how I control the border. This is how I do it. There's no way she would be able to contradict and outshine the president. You're kind of in an impossible situation when you're vice president. You need to support, just like J.D. Vance, he has to support what his president's doing because the president's commander in chief. Now, Kamala Harris did have a chance to say, hey, guys, look, there's a lot of things I wanted to do, but I couldn't do. Now, I mean, I have to follow the agenda of the president. I am loyal to that. But if I were president, this is what I would do. And so, be loyal would have, given her a mulligan. Say, look, well, I want to be loyal. But she doubled down on, the border's secure. The border's fine. I've never been to Europe. And all the other stuff she said. Well, for some women, the last thing a woman wants is somebody to say, that one woman represents all of us. And it's there. So, okay, what was that? Zach Garofalo, who's the one from Hangover, and he had that podcast. So he's interviewing Barack Obama. I'm sure you guys have seen this. And, he does a comedy routine with it, but he asks some questions and he is straight faced. And so he asked President Obama, what's it like to be the last black president to ever be elected? Or is something like that. And Obama had a really good answer. He said, he basically responded saying, how would you like this to be the last interview you ever do with me? And, Zach completely backed off. And it was in comedy. And I think, Barack Obama was still very, very popular. And yes, there are going to be, other black presidents. We hope we're a diverse country, but that's not what women don't want. A woman that doesn't necessarily represent them in the best light being, all right, well, you got your chance, women, and that was the best you came up with. And so, and I'm not saying Kamala Harris couldn't have represented women well, but I don't think it was an anti-woman. I think it was very individualized. And there are a lot of people out there that are extremely popular that I think could do an amazing job as commander-in-chief. Personally, I really like the idea of somebody who has accomplished something. This is why governors do better in elections than senators, because if you've proven you've run a whole state, even though senators do a lot, they represent, but a governor has to run a state. So it's almost like a little bit of a dry run or an internship or apprenticeship to see what they did with that state. That's why Ron DeSantis could be a very, very popular candidate. That's why Governor Gavin Newsom may be the next one running for the Democrats, because if he could run a state, some people don't think he ran it well. Some people think he ran it well. That's neither here nor there for this conversation. But, what did they do? Let's look at your resume. What did you accomplish? Now, somebody could say, but Kamala Harris never had a chance to accomplish something. She was always suppressed. But she had some opportunities, and she had the mic, and she could have very easily. And I said, how do you do that without throwing Biden under the bus? You could say, look, I am loyal to the party and I'm loyal to my president. He's my commander in chief. I will extend his legacy and add to it by doing this. Times have changed. Now we're out of post-COVID, and listening to my constituents, this is what the constituents want. So 2024 is going to be a different year, and 2025. So this is what I would. There was a way she could do that without throwing him under the bus, saying, look, this is what I'm going to do. But what she said wasn't impressive. It was just, anti this, and it didn't resonate as much. But now the conversation comes up, can a woman be popular enough? Well, women have voted for men. Men have voted for men. But do you have men and women out there saying, I would never vote for a woman? Is there a hatred of women? Is there a stereotype to women? Oh, so that is interesting. I don't necessarily think that was applicable in Kamala Harris's case. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regenerations. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So are you worried that you don't have money to leave the kids for inheritance? Are you concerned that, when you're gone, they won't be able to take care of themselves? So to be honest, full disclosure, I don't give it a thought. I want to spend my own money. I love my kids. But no, I'm right now just trying to think about how to retire. I think about not wanting to be a burden on the kids. But I don't necessarily sit and think about how I want them to each get $10,000 or $25,000. I probably should, because I know they're going to fight over my car. But I don't think about that. Maybe I should. But a lot of parents are worried about that. They want, and maybe it's because they don't want to look selfish. You see, when I talk about retirement and all that, it's I want to still have income or passive income, or I don't want to quit yet because I don't have enough money to retire. Maybe that sounds selfish. So people will say, I want to leave money to the kids, so I need to work, or we need to increase Social Security so that I have more money to give the kids. It sounds nicer. It sounds a lot more altruistic. But I gotta be honest, right now I'm just thinking about tomorrow and next week. Yes, kids are gonna have to fend for themselves. I gave them the tools, taught them about education. I helped support them through college and through school. They're gonna have to I had to figure it out myself. I don't have a family that has inheritances or money. We never got money from, there was maybe one relative that might have given, and that money got lost during I don't know what, but, I just never had family members who, where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to get money if they leave. So I always had to, in my own mind, okay, I got to do it myself. I got to support myself. I can't, bank and wait for something else to save me. Same thing with the government. I don't sit there and think, well, I'll just rely on the government money. I don't do that because I'd rather it's just something I've always done. Like when I play chess and when I teach people chess, I immediately knock out the queen. It's sacrifice my queen to knock out the queen. My kids used to hate that. And I'm like, if you don't know how to play chess without your queen, you're never going to win. Excuse me. Sorry, you're never going to win. So you need to learn how to be a chess player without your queen. And then if you do get a queen, you have a queen, now that's an extra bonus. So same thing. You need to know how to support yourself without expecting there to be some inheritance. But the truth of the matter is people are worried that they're not going to have something for their kids. And the reason why this is more of a worry is because for years, the younger generation did better than the older generation. So my parents did better than their parents. And then, now, mind you, that was Holocaust and, escaping Germany. But throughout time, the kids did better. This is one of the first generations where, because of AI or the job market or everything else that's going on, these kids don't necessarily have a solid career path. As employers are hiring and firing and with benefits and work, it's a little bit of a mess. And so this is the first time we're not thinking that the younger kids are going to do better. My parents didn't have to worry because I supported myself. I got an academic scholarship. I worked through medical school. I paid off my student loans, so they knew I would have a career. But, so Bill Gates, he's going to donate his fortune. I think there's been rumors that he's not, just giving it to his family. He's going to give away nearly all of his personal wealth. This is being reported by CNBC. He says he's going to shutter the Gates Foundation within 20 years. I think 1945 is when the Gates Foundation will close. And he's a billionaire. I think he's worth about $170 billion? He says, people will say a lot of things about me when I die, but I am determined that, quote, he died rich will not be one of them. He's 69 years old right now. He said, there are too many urgent problems to solve for me to hold on to resources that can be used to help people. That's nice. So he is going to be donating most of his fortune. Right? Well, for those of us that don't have a fortune, what do you do? Well, okay. If you are stressed about the idea of leaving something for your child, there's a whole bunch of stuff you could do. So like when my dad died, obviously he didn't have money, he didn't have whatever. And some of my family members kind of, went and, went to the house and got tools and got things or whatever. I just wanted a memento. And so I got I got a couple of his handkerchiefs because I really love my dad's handkerchiefs because they were all soft because they were used so much and washed so much. And then he had this work metal box where because he would go and fix people's appliances. So he would put calls. And so he had this metal box. Sorry, I get all, but okay. So something like that to me meant a lot. Not that he left it for me. He died without realizing he was going to die. But, maybe start thinking about things that you could leave for your children that may not necessarily be monetary. Yes, we'd all like to make sure the kids and the grandkids are going to be fine. It gives us a goal when we're older. It gives us a goal and it gives us something that we know we could do, that we could help them. But there are other things you could do to leave for them if you don't think you're going to be leaving them money. One is try to get rid of the debt. You definitely don't want to give them debt because there's a lot of states that'll make the kids take on the debt. We spoke about that before. But like I said, if there's a family tree, your knowledge, if there is something that you know that they don't, put that down, put that in a book. Whether you publish it or not, put that down for them. You could videotape advice. All right, grandbaby, I know you're only 1 year old, but I want to give you some advice, when you go to prom or when you get married or these are things that could be so valuable. They're invaluable. And if you're worried that you're not going to have anything to give the kids and you're going to leave and you're going to be forgotten, and not that inheritance, always brings you back to memory, but then do things or provide things like a cookbook, like the family, recipes, or there's a lot of things that you could do that will be carried on. But I worry about retirement. There is no way with the way things cost and mortgage and rent and home care and nursing and all that, there's just not enough money. And we are going to be relying a lot more on the state. We're going to be relying a lot more on the government. That's going to mean more taxes, and it's going to be a vicious cycle. So another thing I would suggest you do is talk to the kids. Talk to your inheritees, right? And talk to them about what you want to do. Tell them, look, I want to leave you guys money. I want to make sure you have something that will protect you. But this is where I am financially. And they might say, oh, don't worry about it. Let's not talk about your death. That drives you crazy. I say, but no. I want you to think about, what do you want? What do you, not so much of what we have, but, if I do leave, what do you need? Well, I'd like this organized. I'd like to talk about it. Have those conversations, because I see too many people upset and they get so stressed out about the subject that they don't have that conversation. And I never had that conversation with my family. And then when somebody died, and then when another one died, it just ended up to all fall on me, and nobody was prepared. Nobody had life insurance. Nobody had, and it was a mess. And life insurance, that's a whole other concept for another day. Some of these life insurances are fantastic and really good policies. And then you have others that are just a pain in the butt. I had the most amazing policy that for some reason we stopped getting bills, but I was still paying them. I was still paying them automatically. Well, they decided to up the rate without telling me after 20 some years. And then they never gave me a bill. So all of a sudden they go, well, you're dropped. I'm like, what are you talking about? I've been paid. There's all the proof. They go, no, we're sending you all that money back. I'm like, why? Well, because we're dropping you. Why are you dropping me? Well, see, they got their money. They just, now that I'm older. So you got to really look into and find a good policy. Hope that helps. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Now, don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Former Supreme Court Justice David Souter has passed. He dies at the age of 85. He was at his home yesterday in New Hampshire, and we do not have a cause of death, but the High Court did announce his death. Justice Souter, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, supplied a key vote to uphold abortion rights in his early years. He was known as the quote-unquote stealth candidate when President George H.W. Bush nominated him in 1990 to replace William Brennan. And John Sununu, Bush's chief of staff, assured Republicans that the pick would be a home run for conservatives who are on, quote unquote, the brink of significantly remaking of the court. This is according to the Washington Post. And I never really followed Justice Soter's rulings, but he did. He was a very, very reliable vote for cases that were more liberal and progressive. And he has passed this week. People are asking if Trump is going to be, nominating another justice. He nominated 3 in his first term. And, I think he is going to. I think that's not going to be, he's only in his, first 120 days right now. So I don't think that is going to be a topic. It's going to be very contentious because it means somebody is going to have to retire. And so there's been a lot of talk that one of the older judges may retire so that he could then nominate somebody young and vibrant like he did with Brett Kavanaugh and Amy and Barrett. But the Cohen Barrett. But the truth of the matter is he's got a lot of other stuff to do right now. I would not be surprised if his 3rd or 4th year, that's going to be something that he is going to consider. My issue with any of this, like they say, David Souter was liberal leaning, and I think a judge is supposed to be neutral, and it drives me crazy that we have very predictable ruling patterns of individuals, and it's where it's right or left. And I thought that when you nominate somebody to the Supreme Court, it's because they are worthy. They are impartial. They don't have biases. And when people are nominated going, well, are you going to vote on this? Or how do you feel on this? And how do you feel on this? Well, you're biased. You're this. And oh, okay, you think like I do? You could go through. And so I don't know if that's ever going to change. The fact that we have appointed judges, some judges get elected, but then like federal judges get appointed. And they get appointed by the president. So then there's almost a understanding that then they are going to think like them and they're going to rule in that way. And so, I really hope we eventually get to, look, is this constitutional or not? Is this something that, and, sometimes we have seen the justices cross party lines, which there's not supposed to be party lines, and be unanimous about some decisions. But then they quickly, justify, say, well, it's because it's written this way, but otherwise I would have voted this way. Because they don't want one side to be upset with them or the other. As a doctor, you are not supposed to put politics in medicine. That's bad. If somebody had a mask that wasn't working, and they put it on to show me that that's what they're using to protect against COVID, and it was dirty, it was porous, it wasn't an N95 mask, it is my duty to tell them that. It's not to be Republican or Democrat. If somebody is questioning the vaccines, it's my duty to educate them on what we know and what is standard of care. We do know that vaccines save lives. We've had studies showing that we have, diminished polio, tetanus, hepatitis, all sorts of things in kids, and improved children, lowered mortality rates in children. However, there are side effects. And before you do anything, whether it's a surgical procedure or take a medication, we have to review the side effects with you. That's neither Republican nor Democrat. That's what doctors are supposed to do. They're supposed to give informed consent. If there is a child who is 8 years old who goes, I want to be a girl, you have a duty as a medical professional to look into why and ensure that nothing you do affects them permanently that can hurt them. Not to mention, cause blood clots and changes in their bone mass and mentation. So whether you're right leaning or left leaning, these are things that you need to do. When I would have these teenagers come in wanting birth control because they didn't want birth control. They were having sex, but the mom got wind of it, dragged them in so they could get some birth control. It was my duty to also talk to them about assault and consent. And, do you feel safe? Areas that could be, of danger are bathrooms. That's why I always go in pairs. A lot of assaults happen in a bathroom. And so go in pairs, and you teach them. But then that's anti-biological males and girls' bathroom. I'm not being anti anything. It's my job to teach these kids to, and teach them about things that they need to be aware of. If there is a man in the bathroom, you have to first assume that they could be there for assault before you assume they're innocent and there because they're transgender. Why? Because for centuries, men being in women areas when they're not supposed to, was a sign or a precursor of an assault crime. Because most men are not supposed to be around women's bathrooms. And this is something we teach the kids. Not because we want to be anti-LGBTQAI+. It's just you want to let them know these are certain red flags. If there's a van that has no windows, you might not want to park next to that van. Because people who got abducted, van would open up, they'd grab the person, and then close the van and nobody would see. Don't walk home alone at night. It's not that you're accusing that neighborhood of being riddled with assault and crime. It's just you could be more of a victim. You could be more vulnerable and a higher risk of being a victim if you're walking alone at night. I mean, these are things that we teach. And I know everybody says, well, you're trying to be political with it. I mean, if there is a mass group of students that are prohibiting you from going to class, okay, that's wrong. You're not being right or left about that. That's just outright wrong. And they're interfering with your rights. So, maybe one day we'll get back to, look, let's just, common sense. And full disclosure, this is how I feel, but judges are not supposed to be biased. Judges are not supposed to have predilections. They're not supposed to, they're human, but they're not supposed to go at the law going, well, I'm going to be leaning liberal and I'm going to be going towards the Democratic side or the Republican side. But that's unfortunately, what we have. And we've had for a while. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.